My name is Bartek Wierzbicki, and together with Sebastian, we would like to take you through the presentation that shows challenges in managing Azure-based data platform. So let's start from formalities. We represent Volvo. Here you have the page with other sponsors of the event. 5 seconds, I guess, is enough. Let's move on. So all what you will see today is real life story based. So we've been running the platform or building the platform over the last 3 or 4 years. So it's a collection of our experience, challenges, not necessarily the technical things that we will share. So don't expect code or technologies, but we'll mention issues that we faced, but also to not leave you with those, some of the solutions. So the platform is still, or the build of the platform is still ongoing. Some of the items are not solved, but we will do the best to help you to and guide you to manage the platform on your own. I'm leading the platform, a bit about ourselves, let's say. I'm leading the platform architecture and governance, having, let's say, 15 years experience in the IT industry in different areas. I'm representing Volvo Data Unit, and I have to say that we have quite large community in Poland, in Wrocław, but also in other cities. We work with people from let's say, the entire country. The group of data unit is having now over 100 people in Poland and almost 700 around the world. So that only shows the importance of data at Volvo. Currently, I'm managing the team of solution architects that is accountable for Volvo Data Cloud Platform.
And I'm working on daily basis with Bartek in the same data organization. I'm leading 2 teams today, automation and monitoring. And in reference to monitoring, I have at least some additional responsibilities for performance, for example, for the Azure hosting services like signups, and also optimization across the platform, especially in reference to cost management. But I think it's quite enough about us, right, Bartek?
Absolutely.
So let's move further.
Let's move to the clue. Quick look at the agenda. We are going to give a short introduction of the Volvo Group and also its strategy, but only to, let's say, do the background for the discussion about the data platform. Then we will take a look at the key focus areas. We divided the platform into different components that we would like to focus on and discuss some challenges there. And last but not least, we also will speak about the mindset. As we have quite tight schedule, I would say if we can park your question, or if you can park questions for now and leave it for the end of the presentation, that will be brilliant. If we do not have time to answer all the questions, you can still use the application to raise it, and we'll respond probably within next couple of days. So quickly about Volvo, I think for those who've been who were in the opening session, our colleagues already talked about the fact that we don't produce cars. This is in architectural language our legacy. Cars were part of Volvo until 1999. As you could hear there in the opening session, we produce big toys for big boys and girls as well. Our main branch is connected to the trucks, but we have also Volvo construction equipment. We have buses, engines for marines and industry, but also some of the branches that are connected to energy, autonomous solutions, or Volvo Financial Services. Just maybe a fun fact, because Volvo Group does not consist only from one brand. As you can see, there is Renault, which is also part of Volvo Group. Volvo has 13 brands. Renault, I think it's the most recognized in Europe, but we have also some companies or brands that we own in the US, like Mack Trucks, or also construction equipment, Terex, and other brands. Sorry. Let's take a look at the Volvo strategy. So the ambition of Volvo by 2030 is to have 50% of the income based on the services and solutions. The servitization creates new opportunities for our company to change the mindset from like machine-centric, selling the machines, to more broader outcome, selling digital services and packaged products that are custom based for specific needs. And here is an example. I can speak about the marbling excavation. So we have a site that excavates marble. Instead of selling individual machines, so excavators, tracks that are supporting the business, we would like to sell the entire ecosystem. Of course, we provide the hard products, which are still machines, but also we provide the services that optimize the routes, optimize the charging processes, let's say forecasting the excavation, connect all the services, also devices that are not Volvo, let's say, owned, and at the end also prepare the financial concept of the excavation plan. So those type of services we would like to produce, and most of those services will require data and the platform that allows to do that. And that's where the data platform steps in.
And now let's move further and focus a bit on the key focus areas we would like to discuss today. The journey, Bartek, we have, it's already, I think, more than 3 years. And when we started the journey, of course, we start from the vision, building from scratch. There was nothing industrialized. And I mean, the 3 years of quite intensive work end up with some kind of the state of art, where right now at Volvo we have the data platform live. I mean, we are speaking to you today, but the platform is there, solutions people working on it. And along the way, we learned a lot in 2 aspects: the challenges and how to mitigate them. And this is what we would like to show you today in 5 areas. The architecture is by a purpose in the middle, because whatever else needs to be built on top of it. So architecture needs to be flexible and like a good soil if you want to everything else flying. Monitoring, which is rather obvious, it's not a super different comparing to on-prem. Still, we need to know the things, but the difference is when thinking about the platform like Azure, when it's rather the moving target. Automation, which was not much case on-prem, right? But in cloud, the scale will definitely push you to have the solution that you could act at scale, speed up, do the things in parallel. Cost management, maybe there is someone in the room right now that do not know the pressure of the budget, but the standard is that we know the pressure of the budget. So the cost management, cost control is important, especially crucial if we are in the pay-as-you-go system in Azure. And of course, the last one, but not least, the governance. I mean, it doesn't matter if you do the breakfast in the morning or you're building the truck. You need to have a plan, methodology, rules, roadmap, vision, idea to have the things flying. And what we learned along the way, and you will hear it within our speech later when we touch each area, is that those layers need to cooperate each other. They are super dependent. Every change that Bartek, for example, do with the architecture has immediate impact on automation or monitoring on the cost management, right? So the maturity can be achieved when those layers can work together seamlessly. And this is not a point that was from start, right? When you start and you're young in cloud, you're mainly focused, I need to have my architecture, I need to have my monitoring. It's also by the legacy in the past. but you need to figure out that the dependency is very high. So I hope we'll give you some insights later within the slides. So Bartek, I propose to start with the architecture then.
Yes. And before we go into the issues or troubleshooting, I would like to give you a bit of a picture of the scale, what we are doing and what this platform is about. So first of all, why the data platform? You could hear the services we require. That's the, let's say, solid ground for it. But there is also other reason. And in fact, Volvo is having thousands of systems, different plans, different brands, as you could see. We have very distributed subset of systems, and many of them are connected in kind of spider web. So from the architectural perspective, we have a lot of overlapping, multiple data sources, multiple source of truth. And by implementing a common platform, we would like to simplify this connection. So we would like to consolidate all the Volvo data assets into one platform and actually use it further on for analytics. As I already mentioned, or as the subject says, it's cloud-based, it's Azure. Again, to give you the scale, we have 80 subscriptions today running. Well, some might say not much. But those subscriptions are in the hub and spoke approach, and we decided to take a bit different approach than standard recommendation of Microsoft, where individual products are or projects are separate landing zones, so separate subscriptions. So we have the solid ground, which is common Delta Lake and Data Lake, and all the subscriptions needs to fetch the data from it, which means that by implementing the approach with landing zones and separate subscriptions, we would end up with managing thousands of subscriptions. So instead, we decided to deploy projects at the resource group level and simplify at least the network connectivity. Today, we have around 1,700 resource groups, and 600 of them are in production. Of course, part of it is purely technical and does not connect for the purpose of the use cases, but we can easily say that today we are having a couple hundred of use cases or projects that are running in the platform. Some are big, some are smaller, but still that's quite a lot of scale. Probably a couple dozen of teams that are running different use cases there. We cover pretty much end-to-end approach with, of course, acquisition of the data from the ingestion, replication of the databases, streaming, the processing with ADF, Databricks, IICS, so Informatica Intelligent Cloud Services, but also obviously the visual part, advanced analytics, machine learning, and cognitive services. We have also similar, and purists will probably, let's say, I'm looking at Maciek, who is an engineer there in our team. They will probably resist, but I'm saying not the pure medallion, but similar to medallion. We have 3 layers, row, the harmonized layer, which actually harmonize the data to the same format of Delta. And then structured layer, which puts some business logic into the data. Well, we started to implement data mesh approach, and that's always a challenge from the organizational perspective. So I'm not saying we are perfect there, but it's ongoing. We have domains set. We are setting up the ownership of the domains. But what is even more important, we are industrializing data products now. And for us, yesterday, I think it was in the area of architects, there was a discussion about what data product is. So probably every company has its own definition, but for us is a subset of the data that has its ownership, that obviously has the life cycle, has the structure, has the quality of the data and so on. So we expose the data sets as a data product. And then last but not least component is connected to the governance, lineage, data catalog, data, master data, and data quality. Volvo as a company has quite interesting approach that calls CAST, so Common Architecture and Shared Technology, where the Volvo Group and partners benefits from modular platforms. And that's used in the context of reusable elements or components that can be built into different hard products. So buses can have the same engines like trucks and construction and so on. So the approach is to reuse and standardize. The same approach we want to implement in the platform, as we are working with multiple projects, with multiple business use cases. We are standardizing some of the elements of the architecture, starting from the architectural patterns that are more the building blocks of the platform. And this building block can be, for example, data ingestion. We don't define exactly the technology inside, but we know we need it, and we know that where it's allocated in the platform. The next element is enablement of Azure services. In our case, of course, you can switch on Azure, but in the context of the platform that is used by multiple teams in a specific way, there are some limitations, and there is specific design that needs to be followed. So we deliver a subset of services, Azure services, provisioning adoption to the platform, meaning that we design appropriate network connectivity, access management, policies, and we collect that in catalogs so that the services can be reused. Next element of the platform are reusable blueprints. That actually consolidates Azure services and solutions into, let's say, reusable elements, so that describe the services into specific flow. So we have low-level design that, and I can take an example of the streaming. So the pattern, or blueprint, sorry, describes both the services that are used, but also information about access management and how basically this blueprint corresponds to other elements of the platform and how this can be requested. So anyone that comes and requires a streaming should know how to request that service, what are the limitations of it, and how the design looks. Last but not least are frameworks, and there I have to mention automation, promotion, or ingestion framework. Those are standardized and reused by the teams, independent on the use cases. But of course, the reusability, that sounds beautiful when we speak about it, but it has also the dark side, because we have multiple stakeholders, multiple needs, but one platform. And what should we do about it? Some years ago, so 3, 4 probably, when we started the project, the life was quite easy. So we had one team, architectural team, that had the scope to deliver, had the solution plan, and actually no users. That was easy. Over the time, the user steps in. We started to promote the platform. People started to use it, and it became that one team that do this design, so provide all the elements that you could see in the CAST model, is not necessarily enough. So it was a lot of escalations, a lot of let's say, well, I can say escalations. That's an easy word. That's a soft word, I would say. But we were perceived as a blocking point. So we had to change something. One of the steps was obviously to democratize the design. And what does that mean? So the platform still requires components that are secured, that are designed according to the golden rules. So we started to document the golden rules. We started to set the templates, and we started to promote the contribution approach. So we built the solid ground for the architects to come in from other teams also outside of the platform team and build the solutions. But obviously we need to govern it. As an architecture team, we still have accountability for the design, but the responsibility can be spread out. In many cases, when there are requests coming to us to deliver some services, we do the check asking, okay, can you deliver it for us? How urgent it is? Oh yeah, it's super urgent. So can you deliver it for us? Well, actually it can wait a bit. So I'm not saying it's perfectly well working, that everyone can do the build, but it's also giving a bit of the perception of the priorities and also enables the team to work on it. I mentioned about the documentation, and you may ask, is it enough just to document everything? No, it's not. I mean, we experienced that many times, that especially with the first build, the team comes, we are trying to document as much as possible, but they have completely no clue what to deliver, even though it sounds like it's documented. So be ready for the co-design. But we experience already multiple times that once the first design is done, then actually it opens the stage, and instead of one team building, you have multiple teams supporting that. Another challenge that we faced was actually how to balance the trust and enforcement. Building the platform which is managing data is always a risk of, let's say, data leakage or providing too much of an access, especially for the areas that are common, like data lake. We should avoid provisioning access, broad access to the teams. In our case, we decided to give admin access within the resource groups for the teams, but still, at least today, with the current shape of the automation, we do the deployment on behalf of the teams. So we have predefined patterns to make sure that the architecture that is deployed is following the rules. So we follow, let's say, specific network design, access management, and so on. But still, the scaling and configuration of the services can be done to the big extent within this area by the teams on their own. We limit the access to the common services like data lake, and there we have a better control of it. What is the biggest challenge those days is time to market. And we should learn from our vendors that not necessarily we aim for the perfection from the start. I think whoever works with the, not mentioning any specific vendor, but many deliver different stages of the life cycle. So you might recognize emerging, pilot, general availability, and so on. Initially, we were aiming to the services that work perfectly well, but that takes time. In many cases, and that's what Sebastian mentioned, not everything needs to be automated. So we can release early adopters, we can call it emerging, and we can already benefit from it from the start. We can also learn and build the service based on those pilots and turn them into general availability. So in our case, we have the emerging stage, which is, let's say, just for the very few solutions that are not critical, obviously, and rather in the development environment. The next phase is pilot. So there we can do the deployment in production in, let's say, controlled way. Still, we need to do it probably in most of the cases manually, and should not be applied with the strictly confidential or critical solutions. And last but not least, is general availability. That's, of course, when the entire solution, service, pattern, or blueprint is automated and ready to use. We have also different versions of the services. So we started from MVP, and I can give you an example of the streaming. So obviously we can deliver streaming in end-to-end approach where you can consume the events. In addition to that, we can store it and historize the data. But we divided that into two different steps. So first we release version 1 that delivers the streaming capabilities and allows to consume the data as events come. And now we are working on the release 2, which is historizing data. Last but not least is obviously to build the roadmap. I think from our experience, building the roadmap and announcing that avoids misunderstandings, but also it helps other teams to plan. And in case we have significant, let's say, dependencies from particular technology that is not enabled, but is required or expected by the teams that are actually building some business use cases, they can escalate upfront, seeing the roadmap 3 months, 6 months ahead or a year ahead. And then it's easier to reprioritize it or change the sequence of deploying. A couple words about other challenges than the ones related to the cost, legacy and vendors. As I mentioned already, we experience a lot statements that things are working. They are publicly available, GA available, or however we name it. But in fact, when we started to use it, it almost worked. Meaning that there was some small items that were not delivered, but expected. So we require, we encourage you to run the pilots. And I think that's the approach for us when we enable every technology in the platform today. We do small pilot, we do the MVP, and instead of building a long roadmap for the deployment, we rather try to fail fast. Then another context is with the vendors, is the plug and play. So when we migrated initially from the on-prem to the cloud, there's been quite many services that were sold to us as working the same as on-premise. And when we started to use it, it was completely different. It had different, let's say, front-end applet, which was quite complex for developers, but also most of the features did not work. So I would say the lift and shift is rather than approach is rather than exception than the standard rule. And then the last challenge I would say is architecture as moving target. So the pace of releasing new features by Microsoft, but also for other vendors, is incredible. You might ask why we don't use Fabric, because we don't yet. And there are two reasons. The first one, I mentioned, it's maturity. And the second reason is that we have a bunch of legacy. So what do we do with all what we produce? So the entire platform, can we just switch? What's the business value? I think there, every time when the new technology appears, it's a nice fancy thing that architects would like to try, but you need to think around the business value around it, because we will never be able to chase the pace of deploying new features. So we need to consider that through the business value aspect. And last item on the architecture is that Maintenance is not needed for that, and that's definitely a false statement. It's a different type of a maintenance, and I guess Sebastian, you can say more about it, because there is a lot of daily struggles that we need to follow. Yeah. It's more in the area of the security. It's in the area of the IaaS services. Obviously, some of the elements of the puzzles as services do not have to be monitored, but still there are other elements of the maintenance, and cost, I think, is a good example. So you need to track it and maintain the solutions to not exceed the cost.
I have a bit less slide. Okay, so let's start with monitoring right now. Just to give you the big picture, if I would like to phrase what's the monitoring is all about, I could say it's about to know the state or a status in a given moment. And of course, the status can be contextual. It might be a financial context, the usage context, performance context, whatever. And comparing it to on-prem, the life was easy, right? We had like mostly one appliance for production, some appliances for dev QA, some COTS tools around, integration tools, and the environment was stable. The cloud is a bit different logic. And we have hundreds of services, and this is, by the way, the case. We have hundreds of SQL database instances. We have a lot of virtual machines, hundreds of storage accounts. And there is a moment when you start asking the questions like, how many virtual machines I have on the platform that are oversized? So for example, I am keeping the infrastructure I don't need. Of course, whatever I will say now, every aspect has a cost consequence. So you can add this aspect all the time. What if you ask the question, how many SQL database that are randomly used on the platform could be serverless instead of the general purpose to save the money? And the trick about cloud is that Azure portal will not give you the answer. Of course, there is an option. You can see it, you can review manually all the virtual machines, SQL database instances, but long term, the solution is a wrong one. So there is a lack of holistic view. And the holistic view is giving you the freedom and control. You can then make a decision, action. So you need to have this holistic view. So we did two things in Volvo. First, we figure out and do some brainstorm how we can sell this complexity of monitoring to the end users. It's also us. We are also end users of our own platform. So we split in three monitoring areas: infrastructure, and it's all about health of the services, usage of the services, performance, limits like subscription quotas. You can pick the topic. Then we have data area, so we are monitoring ingestion flows, no matter which technology is used, including also the vendors. We are, for example, using IBM CDC as well. And the cost. I will not go to the details because I have a separate slide around the costs. So where is the portal in this chain? We built the holistic view to have a vision, view, and control around the platform, because we are not be able to manage the whole scale at the beginning. So the holistic view is giving you a super opportunity that you can identify area of interests. So you can see the burning points, and you can put your energy and your people, money, and time into those emerging points. And then you can go down using the portal and take advantage of tons of metrics, and everything is there. The portal is useful, but in the contextual moment. And what's also a point that Microsoft as a vendor will be always faster than you, meaning they are building the portal. You don't have impact on it. Of course, we have agreements with Microsoft. We can propose the solutions, capabilities, but they are building the rules, right? So it's not about copying the portal. It's about taking advantage, but in a proper moment, not to be drawn with tons of things there, right? In a separate services. So that was one challenge we solved by this logic to monitor from the top to the bottom. And one more really important part is that monitoring costs. I mean, it was not the case on-prem. Even if we bought some software, license was for a year, stable environment, no changes. No matter what you do in the cloud, you will pay for it. So you need to ask additional question. Do I need this monitoring? How often I need to monitor it? can I balance the architecture of monitoring regarding the value I want to deliver? And I can give you the example, because with this balancing of the costs, the additional integration and complexity become visible. And I can give you the example. Synapse audit logs. You need it on production. Do you need it on daily basis? No. Do you need it one per month or quarterly? Yes. So it doesn't make sense to ingest all the logs on daily basis to log analytics, because you will pay a lot for ingestion. Why? So then you are making a brainstorm, and it will be an obvious point, because this is how Portal is built. You will use storage account, but then you will get a surprise. Microsoft give it to you because the format of the files that Microsoft is saving a storage account is not a standard one. It's not a JSON or XML file, it's Excel files. So on top of it, then you realize that you need to build an integration which make a complexity and additional costs to consume those files. And then you need to balance what is better, ingestion, daily monitoring. Do we really need this monitoring? It's a question we are challenging a lot around. So then you are balancing. So the biggest challenge about the monitoring is a value, holistic view to underline the burn points, and then go and take advantage of the portal in connection with with additional surprises that you will find. And of course, one small last bullet, governance of the monitoring setup. It's super important, because if you take the decision that the log analytics is your main central log, it's really expensive. In most cases, you don't need real time, at least not at the beginning. And you need to be sure what is ingested there, because if you lose this point, you will pay the bill. Trust me. So what you need to do at least at some point when you are building the monitoring is to secure at least some Azure policies, so no one will change your diagnostic settings, or no one will start ingesting something you don't use, because we are ingesting only the logs we are taking care. We don't care for the logs that we don't use. So this is about the monitoring. How much time? Flying? Yes. So let's now focus on automation a bit. And automation is a tricky topic. Why? Because from the last couple of decades, we were taught by vendors, or we learned from vendors, that they are offering us super solutions. Buy our software, you pay a 1-year license, you can do the magic. Whatever topic we can take, cost management, performance, just monitoring as well. So normally we get used to, after so many years, that we are using like a monolith, harvesters. I call it harvesters, but it's equal to the monolith. Life in cloud is different. Many times, often, we are doing small things, but often, like we need to just add a new service to existing project or remove it. We need to change the data redundancy on the storage account, or just add a policy. We don't need monoliths. So what we did at Volvo, and I am not saying we did it from start, we just learned also along the way. Instead of building the monolith, we start building modules. And we did one more thing. We split core platform from end users elements. Let me explain. We don't know the future, but we can anticipate that right now, even if we are in West Europe, that might be a situation that we need to be in North America. So I don't want to spend another 2 years to replicate the platform, right? I would like to use the idea of infrastructure as a code and deploy the core components, so I could have the platform from scratch there and start adding solutions, right? And solutions about end user components. So we have infrastructure components for example, Databricks, storage account, Key Vault, etc., empty resource group, and we can mix them, building a patterns, business logic patterns. So we have patterns for AI, we have patterns for, Bartek, you mentioned about the startups and some POCs, and we can also challenge the specific request, because advanced teams can decide what they want, but they need to be mature to take this decision. One important point about automation is the choice of your technology. We start from Bicep, natural recommendation by Microsoft, why not? But we end up with Terraform from 2 reasons. One, Terraform is giving us the opportunity for the assets diversification, which means it's multi-cloud vendoring. Again, we don't know the future, right? What if there will be a capability we need to have at Volvo that we need to use Google Cloud? I don't know, but at least Terraform give me this option and skill set on the market. If you find someone with bicep knowledge, you will build a solution with someone with, based on one smart guy. Long term, it will not give you the advantage. Terraform, you can find the knowledge around, you can find forums, you can find support if you need. So this is the second reason why we choose this. And the magic about, Bartek, you mentioned maintenance, ticketing process, right? Ticketing process is really a legacy approach. We don't want to have ticketing process in cloud. Come on, ticketing is SLA, waiting. I need a new service, right, in my environment. So why I need to wait 2 weeks, right? Microsoft, when selling the cloud, is saying, okay, take whatever you want from the marketplace, deploy and play, right? So, okay, come on, we also want to achieve it, but we don't want to have a ticketing process to achieve this level. So what we do right now, it's on early stage because it's not yet mature. We are experimenting with the backstage right now and ServiceNow to choose the right approach. And this is why we're also doing the POCs, as you mentioned, Bartek. So we want to give the control to the users so they could request, act, execute whenever they want, but the execution below should be based on the automation built centrally. Because still you have a governance, right? You have a naming convention, you have a security rules, firewalls. Users don't know about that, but you need to secure it when deploying things in your governed platform, right? So this is something that definitely will give us the exclusion of ticketing, and really ticketing is making right now a lot of maintenance on our side.
That's maybe not ticketing as such, but it's a middleman that needs to pick it up and execute. And that's what we would like to avoid, to have nobody in between the user and the deployment.
I'm waiting for it. And last 2 points, automate or run manually. We didn't ask, we just made the process and rules. Whatever is new, there is no way to automation. It was some kind of the mistake long time ago, right? If you start to try automate everything, also the POCs, you will not finish the POC and you will not finish the automation. Because when you are running the POC, it's a moving target, requirements, architecture, it's live. So everything at start we do manually, and there is like a process of the steps. And when we have a consideration that it can be used at scale, then we are considering automation. No one is talking about automation before we prove all the components are working together, flying, vendors, GA promises, etc. Right? And we already learned that it's not worth to start with automation. First, we need to prove. And it's what's on Bartek's side a lot, architecture and standardization. I don't want to do the automation for a single project. Automation means standardization cross-platform when people need to follow the rules. So again, such a things like tag management, right? It must be defined so I could use it in the automation later. Okay, so let's move further. And quite complex topic, cost management. Cost management is also about the monitoring. It's exactly the same logic like we have in monitoring overall. So still, you need a holistic view. You need to have an answer for the question, how much I pay in April for my cost, for my platform. What are the top services I need to, let's say top 5 services are the most expensive, projects, etc. So then you need to have the holistic view. And the scale is pushing you for the holistic view. Again, it's the logic the same. You need to identify the burning point so you could address, because you will not manage everything. Of course, you can sit in the portal, look in the cost analysis tab for subscription, for resource group. Okay, you can do it, but it will not give you the speed and right solution long term. Cost management is complex because you have different audience that you need to address answers. Vice president or director will ask different questions than typical solution leader or digital product owner of a single project. You have technical layers, subscription, how much I need to pay for virtual machines, but you have also business logic. You may have a definition of the project, which is combination of different Azure components. You may have a common cost, shared cost. You may have some logic with the financial system and integration. So definitely you need to have a holistic view. And the cost, and by the way, we solve it in the same logic as monitoring. We build a different cost views. We have a current view, we have a monthly with the trends, we have a budget control with alerting, we have some recharging insights. Everything is built by a central team. So we have a one version of truth, and everyone coming to the platform is receiving those tools for granted. So no solution is building monitoring tools or cost management tools. We are taking care centrally and giving this to the people. And why cost management is so complex and important? Because it's new for everyone. It was not case on-prem. The costs were fixed on-prem. Everyone was easy to plan the budget. If you forget about something, and we are in the pay-as-you-go, or you change something in your development today, you will see it tomorrow. So this mindset, and I will have a separate slide regarding the mindset, will push us into more items that we prepared at Volvo, like optimization advisor, tracker, or FinOps framework. I don't know how many of you are familiar with FinOps framework, but really it's not a joke. It's a set of rules that we built with like top 5 steps that you need to do when you are planning move to the cloud. When you are doing your development into the cloud, we have a set of onboarding materials, recording, etc. And I will say a bit more with the mindset slide. But we also, what we did and what you need to do, and this is what I'm really proud of, we built a foundational process at Volvo to secure the pilgrims of change. We are a central team. I have a FinOps in my in my team. So let's say I have 2-3 people that I am preparing that stuff, right? But I will not win this battle because in front of me there is a company. They need to act. We are not do it centrally. So this organizational change on our side is pushing and securing leaders of change, people who are making the decision, like digital product owner, managers, whatever naming you have in your company. They should act and speak the same language and keep an eye on the cost aspects locally. We are supporting, and again I will say a bit more on the management mindset slide. So this is something where you need to have, during this change from on-prem to the cloud, you need to have organizational support. If you don't, you will be like alone in the jungle. And governance is a baseline for optimization. I have one example which I think give you a big picture. Databricks governance. If you leave Databricks just without the policies, instead of ending up cluster creation on 1 to 4 families, you will end up to 10 to 20. How to optimize that? You don't have standards. And then there is even no way to create reservation for a single family type, because how? There is no option that one project will reuse reservation for a 24-hour, because then the cost will go somewhere else. So you need to have a governance around architecture, which, as we said at the beginning, has also an impact on the cost management on other layers. And by the way, this is what we are trying to make a governance right now. Okay, I will end up here and I will come back with the mindset slide.
The governance, I will go quickly through it. And it's a bit different type of governance that I talked about in the context of architecture, or Sebastian talked about monitoring or cost control. Here it's more the context of the platform overall. So we have, platform is not a monolith. It consists of multiple components, but also different teams are working on it. It's difficult to imagine with such a scale to have like one team, just one single team working on it. So what we struggled a lot after the deployment and growing with the scale, with the responsibilities and who should own what scope. So we decided to productionize the platform components. So we have different products on the platform. So we have architecture, monitoring, we have automation as a product. We have also ingestion. Every product has its owner, the life cycle, the roadmap. And by that, we also clarify the responsibilities. But all those teams or the products at the end consist to one ecosystem, and how to manage that. I mean, multiple products might have multiple challenges, different challenges, but at the end, we are working on the same platform that should stay consistent. So to solve the issue, we decided to use SAFe with all the principles. So the Scale Agile framework actually provides a response to the coordination of the different teams, and build, instead of single releases, build the release trains where different teams can contribute to one train. And actually, we have common product increments. We have the grooming, not only at the level of individual teams, but also at the level of the platforms. We discover the dependencies between different components to be able to optimize and deliver a consistent picture of the platform. Also, when it comes to priorities, I think it's important to get the priorities top down, but also bottom up. It's not only enough that, let's say, our top management comes and say, you have to do this. Basically, those should be the lighthouses. So they should set our high-level priorities, but also we need to listen to the teams, and basically most important is to listen to the consumers of the platform. Of course, we need to build the priorities around value. That's pretty obvious. But yeah, that's important to not get the target set only from the top. I would like to mention only, or repeat actually, because it's the same case for the architecture. The platform should be owned by everyone. You need to enforce people to contribute to that, to the build, but also to the usage. It's important that you empower other teams to contribute. If you stay with building the platform on your own, then you will be always perceived as a blocking point. And last is about the communication. I think to get the involvement, you need to communicate. You need to, first of all, communicate about the features and releases, but also you need to build the communities around it. Key user communities, the communities of experts that actually share the knowledge and understand how to use the platform.
And also give you the feedback, right?
And to give you the feedback, obviously, yes. I also encourage you, if you move from the on-prem to the cloud, to have a change management process there. It's a significant change. All the steps or all the issues that you could see here, if we know 2 years or 3 years back that we would face them, probably we would avoid them. Change management, I don't think it would help us significantly to avoid it, but definitely would speed up the process. So we need to have somebody that will make sure that the communication is in place and that the entire change life cycle is also followed. Sebastian?
And the last slide for today is about one more aspect, non-technical one, mindset. I mean, technology, you can just act and change from Monday to Friday. Mostly you can challenge some technology within some kind of the cycle of your work. But the mindset, at least in my opinion, is the biggest non-technical and time-consuming challenge that ever, when you are moving from such a big change like on-prem to cloud. Why? Because people work on-prem ages at some point. They have habits in the blood. It's not like Monday to Tuesday they will change way how people think, and by the way, act. They didn't need to act at some points in on-prem. So what we did at Volvo, we definitely understand that we need to put more attention for this change. So we build services like FinOps service. We have a FinOps service. There is a place where people can come, ask questions, understand the cost, get optimization suggestions, and also our hands with their solutions. And this is very important because we also secure upskilling programs. And please don't think that the training is enough. The workshop is enough, even with the examples. It's not. You need to be with those people on the battlefield to make the change in practice. Of course, we are still building documentation, but it's not anymore working like, please read this doc, you have a link. No, it will not fly. They will start complaining. You need to be with them. And why it's so important? Because you want or you don't, you need to do it. Why? Because then you will be, and I put 5 bullets. It's a story here. You will start being like a Sisyph. Your work become just a maintenance. You will not realize a vision or a strategy. You will be on a full ticketing process, which get you frustrated. It will be non-doable when the scale will grow, and you will lose this battle. But the difference to on-prem is that you will pay a lot for it. And no more what will happen. The management at some point will start to calculate the cost, and you will end up with the cost optimization task force. What that means, you will be at rush. What that means, you make decision at rush. You will do the cleanup, which will make you another legacy in your platform, and you don't want to have it. You want people act. You need an army, and this army is a company. You need to just properly prepare them to this battle regarding the migration from on-prem to cloud. And this is, by the way, from the technology perspective, Bartek, it's already, let's say, 3 a bit more years, right? Platform is live, we are evolving with capabilities, but the mindset change, we are still on this topic. It's still flying. We have a lot of people still don't understand why the daily cost monitoring, or why I need to look on the cost when I did the change on my platform, because you get surprised at the end of the month if you don't do it. And still people are surprised. They are coming to us, how it's possible. Okay, this is why we have a FinOps, this is why we have rules, this is why we are there, and you will not avoid it. If you do, you will have troubles. And that was the last slide we prepared for today, so thank you so much for the session.
So I think we have still 3 minutes if you have any questions.
Two. At least. But we will stay a couple of
we can
minutes
stay after
the
the presentation. Any questions? Sure. So initially we deploy that with automation framework. We prevent some changes. Obviously the security items are sometimes overwritten even. But it's an approach a bit, you build it, you run it. So we have that the same with the pipelines. I mean, yes, if you change and modify things, you take the responsibility to fix it later on. And of course, we don't leave users without any support, but we somehow have more the best effort than SLA around it. So that's the cost they need to, or that's the risk they need to take.
But just to add a comment here, the automation is securing the default setup, and still we promote the way that there should be a framework how to secure your implementation. Either it's a Git repository, the source code, or the backup for your data. We have a policy and rules for the backup. So rather, and by the way, we learned this along the way, because when we start with Bicep on automation, the idea was let's keep in automation every change that the developer are doing. It will not fly. It will kill you. So definitely we split in logical areas. We have automation for the default, and we have a framework how to set up the ground and secure in case of the disaster recovery on your side, or I mean project side. I mean, we didn't discuss that today, but we have this part of the framework as well.
No, I think, Sebastian, you referred to no ticketing in the context of automation. And it's more, I think it's a bit semantic abusion, no ticketing. It's more about the deployment as such. So we should not have a middleman and request placed to get the deployment done. We would like to do it fully automatically, so that the user requests it, gets the workflow with the approval, and then deployment is done in the backend. Today it's not like that. So
I think I can just give an example, because normally I had in mind the ticket around the platform changes, but still if we have a FinOps framework and a FinOps service, still people coming to us by the ticket, right? It will not manage in Outlook. We know why, right? So still the service now ticketing ITIL is there, right? But I had in mind completely purely Azure changes, right? Azure platform changes. I don't want to have a tickets for it. I would like to give the flexibility to the user. I see a stop card here. So I mean, anyone who has a question, we are still here. So yes, you can come. So thank you once again for the session. Wish you a good day.